He named a poor premature baby, Jing, in the state of Zhao. I once instructed a child surnamed Guy to realize the 100 steps flying sword. He is also on the banks of the Wujiang River, a flat boat, crossing over to the king. He was the mentor of Qin Emperor and Han Wu, as well as their motivation to pursue longevity. He was also a secret history that Sima Qian hesitated for half his life and dared not write. He discussed Zhuangzi with his disciples at Xia Shengxian Manor and wrote Biming Divine Arts. During the reign of Emperor Wu of Han, he collected the strengths of 100 schools and left behind the Dao Xin Zhong Mo de Fa for the 6 demon sects of later generations. He once received a poem from Li Bai during the prosperous Tang dynasty, and an additional copy of the Tai Xian Jing appeared on the stone wall of the Xiaka Island. He raised Xiao Feng to adulthood in the northern Song dynasty and witnessed the old death of Guo Jing in the southern Song dynasty. When he talks to Zhang Sanfeng about 100 years ago on Wudong Mountain, he also thinks of the wise girl from that time. When Zhang Wuji woke up from Ice and Fire Island, he told him that this place was called Xiaka Island hundreds of years ago. When Linghu Chong used Dugujiujian, he recalled the eagle from many years ago. A person has been immortal since the Warring States period, going through Qin, Han, Tang, Song, Ming. When time has become history, only Jiang Tai remains unchanged. Several years later, when he stood in the university library, flipping through history and looking a few sentences in the book, spanning 5,000 years, represent the magnificent life of the ancient people. Integrated martial arts and historical fusion, with combat power based on the setting in this book. Keywords of the novel. I am immortal in the world of martial arts with no pop-ups. I am immortal in the world of martial arts. Download the complete set of TXT, and read the latest chapter on immortality in the world of martial arts. Chapter 1. Immortality. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Immortality. 260 BC, Spring, New Year's Eve. Zhao. In the capital city of Handan. In the early morning, Zhao Wangdan went to court and sat on the palace steps, wearing a pearl curtain on his head. One day, the historian held a memorial in the palace and reported. To the king, half a month ago, a comet arrived and saw its tail split. At 1 hour, it left the southwest and landed in Zhao, at the location of Buwei Township in Hongdong. This morning, an official from Hongdong County reported that half a month ago, after the comet, a divine person appeared in Buwei Township one day. His body was like jade, his makeup was like a living person, and he was dressed in strange costumes, not similar to the costumes of the 7 kingdoms. Since his birth, he has not opened his eyes and has not been drinking or eating for 17 days. Some people are afraid of being demons, and he was burned or chopped with an axe, but he did not see any damage. Now, he has been worshipped as a god by the local people. Build an ancestral hall for it to worship. Zhao Wangdan's eyelids were half closed, and he lazily said, the villagers are ignorant, and spreading false information is often untrue. There is no need to take it seriously. At present, the nobles should focus on the battle against Qin. The Qin army has repeatedly provoked, but the old general Lianpa has retreated without fighting. He only intends to change generals. Who do you think can replace Lianpa? I report to the king that Zhao Kuo, the son of the famous general Ma Fujian, is well versed in military literature and has a strategic mind. The Qin army is very afraid of him. If Zhao Kuo is chosen as the general, he will surely achieve a complete victory. Zhao Wangdan's eyes twitched slightly and he was slightly pleased. Zhao Kuo. The lone king has long heard of his talent for governing the world and the land. If he were to replace Lianpa, he would surely achieve a complete victory, defeat the Qin army in one fell swoop, and step into Xianyang. Zhao Kuo. Yes. At the same time as Zhao Kuo faced the battle and replaced the veteran general Lianpa with a young genius Zhao Kuo. In Buwei Township, Hongdong County, which is not favored by Zhao Wangdan. Backed by a large locust tree, a rudimentary ancestral hall resembling a thatched cottage was built. In the Xingxi temple, a young man with long hair and drooping shoulders sits cross-legged on a Yunzhong high yellow mud shrine. He was wearing a broad white robe, with broad shoulders, a high nose bridge, and a face as white as crystal, like a statue. His facial features were sculpted, surpassing all beauty in the world. It is said to be a human figure, but it is also a sculpture of a deity. At this time, outside the shrine and ancestral hall, there were hundreds or thousands of people wearing various types of linen clothes and fabrics, male or female, old or young, all bowing around the shrine. The villagers bent down and undulated, like waves stacked in circles, with various voices of wishes surging towards the deity statue. May the gods and men bless my whole family with peace. May the divine bestow upon my family a child, a continuous flame of incense. May the gods and men show great mercy and give me some money. Since this heavenly descending divine man accompanied the meteor to fall into Buwei township, it has only been half a month, and it has already been heard by the people of dozens of surrounding villages, who have come to pray and pay their respects. A couple prostrated themselves in front, praying that the gods could bestow upon them a child to carry on the family line. Some people may not believe it, but when they come here and see their skin color that is completely different from that of a mortal, their facial features that are carved like knives, and their divine demeanor that is like a fairy tale, they have no choice but to believe it. Chen Lao Han, the village chief, took the lead in building a shrine for him. And just as Chen, the village chief, and his whole family were bowing daily in front of the shrine, praying for the blessings of the gods, the whole family knelt down with their heads down. Suddenly, I heard a childish voice say, "Zhuang, Daddy, look at it. The divine man has opened his eyes." Chen Lian's son quickly lowered his head and saw that his son had actually stood up and reached out to point at the divine person. His face changed greatly and he immediately rebuked him, "Xinger, you can't use your fingers to point at the divine person. Kneel down quickly and don't talk nonsense." He didn't take his son's words seriously at all. How can a divine person open their eyes? That's not really living anymore. But just as the man rebuked his 3-year-old son, he heard a commotion around the shrine and stood up one after another, shouting in terror. The god opened his eyes. The god opened his eyes. The god stood up. The man's brain just exploded, as if struck by lightning, and he turned his neck in disbelief to look only see. That was originally the young man's statue sitting cross-legged on the yellow mud platform, revered by them like a deity. At this moment, he actually opened his eyes and looked at him. What kind of eyes are those? Although they are the image of youth, they are actually so vicissitudes, like a god towering over them, with eyes as deep and broad as the starry sky in the dark. Divine people. The old man Chen, the village chief, opened his mouth wide and also felt his scalp electrocuted. However, he was still the head of the village and not more vulgar. When he heard the panicked and fearful cries of the villagers behind his head, he was the first to react. The gods and humans appeared, and the old Chen Jiao kowtowed to the gods and humans. Chen Lao Han took the lead, and most of the villagers knelt down in confusion and fear. But most still shout, "God, spare your life. God, don't kill us. People are like this." Although they were worshipped, the first moment they saw the statue come to life was not reverence, but fear. After Chen Lao Han knelt down, he buried his head on the ground. Although he was leading the way in kneeling, his heart was still trembling with fear. He only knew that kneeling was always right in this situation, but it was difficult to say whether the gods and humans had survived or not. When feeling anxious. But I felt a gentle breeze blowing from the shrine, supporting Chen Lao Han and unconsciously standing straight, making all the residents of Buwei township kneeling here stand straight. Then, an incredibly rich male voice flowed into their ears. "If it weren't for the power of incense and fire generated by your worship over the past 10 days, which awakened me, I don't know how many more years Jiang would sleep. You are all my benefactors, Jiang Tai. I haven't even remembered your kindness yet, how could I hurt you?" This voice, like power, reaches directly to the soul, gentle and warm. Chen Laohan, his whole family, and the people of his hometown seemed to have been comforted and unconsciously relaxed. Tai Yi. Chen Laohan looked up in awe and was shocked to hear the young man's self-proclaimed name, saying, "It's God's manifestation." The god named himself Jiang Tai. Not to mention that the surname Jiang was originally the surname of Emperor Yan. Tai Yi, that is not only the celestial deity revered by the Chu region, but also a symbol of the old heavenly god throughout the 7 kingdoms of the world. It is Haotian, God, and Heavenly Duke. My goodness! The people were even more shocked by the deities they worshipped. The deity in front of them turned out to be the Heavenly Emperor. So when he just opened his eyes, he was really the real God who opened his eyes. Oh my goodness, too. Jiang Tai's eyes were calm, but he could see the reactions of hundreds of villagers below. Is the Heavenly Emperor of your world originally called Tai? It seems there is a misunderstanding. Jiang is not the heavenly god in your heart, but just an immortal cultivator. Say it. Chen Laohan was confused, as if he couldn't understand what a cultivator was. But I clearly heard 4 words. Immortal. The divine man personally acknowledged that he is an immortal existence. This is not God, so what is it? What can be immortal in the world? Spring blossoms and autumn fruits, cold and summer, birth and aging, illness and death, no one can escape. Only God can exist for a long time, always watching the world. Jiang Tai saw that the old man had any misunderstandings, but she didn't want to explain more. Instead, she asked, "What age is it now? Who is your ruler? How big is the world in this area?" Chen Laohan reacted for a moment and quickly replied, "Hui Shenren, since the Zhou dynasty, after the 5 great hegemons of the spring and autumn period, the world has now been divided into 7 states. Qi, Chu, Yan, Han, Zhao, Wei, and Qin. The Xiaolaoer family is now located in Buwei Township, Hongdong County, Zhao State. The monarch is Prince Dan of Zhao, the son of King Huiwen. Tonight is the beginning of the 20th year of King Zhao's reign. Qi, Chu, Yan, Han, Zhao, Wei, Qin." After hearing these words, Jiang Tai muttered to himself. Is the 7 kingdoms in a chaotic era? He came to this world, and if it weren't for the incense worship and awakening of the people in this village, he wouldn't have slept for long, perhaps he wouldn't have woken up after sleeping. Everyone in this village is grateful to him during speech. Looking at the child who pointed at him first and said to open his eyes, he was hiding behind Chen Laohan, looking at him curiously and reverently. His black eyes were like jewels, and Jiang Tai chuckled lightly. "What is the name of this child in your family?" As Chen Laohan was about to speak, the little boy took the initiative to raise his head and loudly said, "My name is Chen Sheng." End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Transforming Immortals into the Mortal World. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Transforming Immortals into the Mortal World. My name is Chen Sheng. The little boy hidden behind Chen Laohan bravely extended his head, his voice carrying a childlike innocence and clarity, yet also exuding some grandeur. Jiang Tai looked at the child and noticed that the other person had good bones. He then said to Chen Laohan, "Your child is a good cultivator, and Jiang intends to pass him a mnemonic for breathing. Although the spiritual energy in your world is weak, as long as he breathes it day and night, he can become an enemy of 10,000 among ordinary people in the future." Just as the black and bright eyes of the Chen family child gazed cautiously and nervously, he reached out a little. Suddenly, the little boy fell asleep in place. Shenger. The man from the Chen family quickly panicked and hugged the child, looking at Jiang Tai in fear. After all, his father Chen Laohan had some knowledge and quickly scolded, "You're not promising. What's the panic? I didn't hear the divine person say that this is teaching our Shenger a immortal family divine skill. This is a great thing. Hurry up, let's kneel down and thank the divine person. Chen Laohan has heard that there are hundreds of scholars, major sects, and experts in the martial arts world in this world. He heard that after the Battle of Wu, there was a woman who dared to break into the Yu Palace with a bamboo stick. A bamboo stick was enough to kill 2,000 swordsmen from the state of Yu. This is the horror of those powerful figures. A bamboo stick can sweep 2,000 Yu Jia horizontally. And what did the divine man say just now? If the tuna divine skill is successfully practiced by Shinger, it can be done 10,000 enemies. Isn't it even more powerful than the woman with a green robe and bamboo stick back then? Thank you to the divine man for passing down the divine skill. Thank you to the divine man for valuing my family, Shinger. Chen Laohan pulled his son and grandson and was about to bow in front of Jiang Tai. Unexpectedly, there was a refreshing breeze below his knees, which held him back and made him unable to kneel. Jiang Tai looked at the old man's family and looked at over 100 villagers in Buwei township. He said softly, "Earlier, Jiang had said that it was your worship and incense that awakened me. With Jiang's kindness, how could you still bear your respect? The mnemonic passed on to your children was just a little token of gratitude. I hope that when he achieves something in the future, he can bless your fellow villagers. In addition, Jiang has some tokens here. Could you please share them with me?" He conjured some tokens out of thin air from his sleeve, each the size of a knife coin, looking like gold rather than gold, like jade rather than jade. "You mortals, your lifespan is short. Perhaps in 100 years, we will no longer be able to meet again. But thinking of the kindness that you have awakened, as long as I see the descendants of all the people in this village again in the future, with these tokens, Jiang will surely continue to care for your descendants." Chen Laohan nervously and excitedly took this stack of tokens and carefully counted them, totaling 9. Can gods and humans still bless our descendants? This one looks up. But it was discovered that the figure of the deity on the shrine had disappeared. The villagers of the entire Buwei township also exclaimed in surprise. The gods and humans have returned to heaven. What has the divine left for us? Is it a divine object? Can we exchange a lot of money and goods? The whole village surrounded the old man from the Qin family. Chen Laohan just stared absent-mindedly at the empty shrine. Has the divine person returned to the sky? Then, surrounded by the crowd, he saw the greedy eyes of the villagers and sternly rebuked, saying, "Listen up, the things left by the gods will be given to the 9 surnames in our village after the decision is made. However, one thing must be passed down as a family heirloom, and it is absolutely not allowed to be sold." Jiang Tai seemed to have left Buwei township, but in reality, his body was still sitting in the sky above Buwei township, with his eyes overlooking these people from top to bottom. Looking at Chen Laohan's plan, I couldn't help but nod in my heart. This old man's arrangement is not in vain of his hard work. The people of this village worshipped him continuously for half a month, only then did they awaken him. There was a kind of kindness in him. If he were given something ordinary, it would not be impossible, but for Jiang Tai, it was not enough to make him feel at ease. Giving someone a fish is better than giving someone a fish. Instead, it was more cost-effective to pass on a piece of martial arts to the child and promise to protect their descendants in the future. Finally, I glanced down at Buwei township. Jiang Tai looked up at the vast stars beyond the sky, with a hint of melancholy in his eyes. I failed to transform into an immortal, and surprisingly came to such a vast world. Recalling the previous half of my life. He was originally a rural youth who, due to dreaming of high-rise buildings and block characters as a child, unexpectedly fell in love with immortality and embarked on the path of cultivating immortality. Refining essence and transforming qi, refining qi and transforming spirit. Since the day I entered the realm of cultivation, I have been competing with heaven, earth, and myself. He is not only cruel to others, but also not soft on himself. Although he has become a powerful figure in the cultivation world, he has also been given the nickname Jiang Laoma for his actions along the way. Finally, I watched as I finally achieved the highest level of cultivation in the world of immortality, which was, transforming the divine back into the void. From then on, I could immortalize the primordial spirit and transform the mortal into an immortal. Unexpectedly, at the moment when the primordial spirit was about to ascend. On top of the primordial spirit, there were 9 bloody cracks. Causing the failure of transforming the spirit back into emptiness, not only failed to transcend the 3 realms and not within the 5 elements, but also fell into the current heaven and earth as a result. Who? At this moment, Jiang Tai was hovering over the state of Zhao, looking inward at his own spiritual essence. That is a golden little man sitting in the sea of his heart. The whole little person exuded an immortal aura from the inside out, like being able to coexist with heaven, earth, sun, and moon. Genshin Impact. This is the last great realm that all sentient beings in the cultivation world are pursuing. The primordial spirit achieves, and the soul never dies. Moreover, it can transform the divine back into the void and transform the mortal into an immortal. But at this moment, on top of Jiang Tai's golden immortal spirit, there were a total of 9 bloody patterns, emitting earth-shattering evil energy, giving people a feeling like a sea of corpses and blood. Jiang Tai looked at the red ominous aura behind the substantial bloody patterns on the Yuanshen and took a deep breath. I have been in the cultivation world, killing half of my life and forging a path against the heavens. This kind of me has indeed made people in the cultivation world afraid of me, fearing me like a tiger. However, because my hands are full of blood, although I robbed the sky and the earth, killing gods and Buddhas has finally piled me up in the realm of the primordial gods. However, among such primordial gods, there is no understanding of the heavenly way. This was only when he finally failed to transform into an immortal that he realized it. The first 2 words of cultivating immortals and understanding the Tao refer to the competition for resources, killing and looting, and deceiving in the realm of cultivation. However, it is completely an evil path and has nothing to do with understanding the heavenly way. While this can achieve the ultimate goal, one can never become an immortal beyond the 3 realms. Immortals who transform their spirits and return to the void must have an understanding of both the heavenly way and humanity, and are the beings who have attained enlightenment. He sat cross-legged in the clouds. Feeling the evil energy within the primordial spirit, it is the blood of half his life's slaughter, the flaw that prevents him from returning to the void and transforming into an immortal, and the proof of his incomplete life. Mental detachment. Looking towards this mortal world, he muttered to himself. Perhaps my unexpected arrival in this world is not a bad thing. He knew that the failure to transform into an immortal was due to half of his life's slaughter, with bloody hands and no connection to the realization of the heavenly way. Therefore, he must start to understand the heavenly way again and experience a complete life. Perhaps, in this world, starting from a mortal, comprehending life and death, experiencing the ups and downs of spring, summer, autumn, and winter, and comprehending the heavenly way, is an effective way to dissolve the evil energy in one's own essence. If you want to transform into an immortal, you must first transform into a mortal. Unconsciously, Jiang Tai seemed to have realized some key points, but this realization disappeared in a flash, making it difficult for him to capture. At this point, the sky began to drift with snow. Looking at the snowflakes drifting down from the sky, more and more, bigger and bigger. Look, Jiang Tai burst out laughing. Standing up, taking one step, I have already ascended from high heaven to the mortal world. The towering cultivation within the body fell silent like hibernation. His skin was no longer as pure and white as a deity, his hair lost its radiance, his clothes turned into linen, and his immortal aura, close to that of a fairy, disappeared. In the end, he looked like an ordinary mortal. Stepping on the snow-covered official road. Feeling the oncoming cold wind and the cold feeling of melting snowflakes falling on my face. He felt the flavor in the snow, lifted his head, and looked ahead. Squeak. Facing the direction of the capital city of Handan in the state of Zhao ahead, I slowly walked into the wind and snow on the official road. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Strange goods can be found in Buwei. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Strange goods can be found in Buwei. The cold wind is like a knife, flying snow for thousands of miles. A luxurious carriage came up from the northern official road, crushing the ice and snow on the ground, leaving long rut marks on the ground. Buwei sat upright in the carriage. He looks around 30 years old, with a majestic physique and a dignified appearance. He possesses a unique aura that ordinary people cannot compare to. His wealth and status are pressing, and his eyes open and close, deep and profound. About 30 miles ahead, we will enter Handan City. The man driving the car spoke up, saying that he had a severe alcohol smell on his body and a pair of yellow eyes under his eyelids, as if he was still asleep. Buwei is the richest man in the world, and the person who drove him was not an ordinary horse driver, but a famous top expert in the world, the most famous swordsman in Luoyang, named Zhao. After being easily defeated by the contemporary Mahist giant, six-fingered black hero, with a sword for 30 steps, Zhao became depressed and did not want to meet Buwei. After a long conversation, he regained his fighting spirit and was willing to become Buwei's friend, escorting him on his trip to Handan. The carriage is moving forward. Buwei looked at the precious yellow heart agate wine glass in his palm, with a melancholic expression. For him, even though he is the richest man in the world and his family is piled up with gold, silver, and treasures, he is not truly wealthy. The word rich cannot be said separately, and often needs to be followed by the word expensive to be more appropriate. Buwei's lifelong pursuit is not wealth, but wealth is the ultimate goal. The ruts pressed against the snow, creaking and creaking. The wind and snow seemed to have eased a bit. But the weather became even colder. Fortunately, a fire pot was born in this carriage of immense wealth. Buwei reached out to heat the fire, but his ears moved slightly and he heard the footsteps of someone outside the ruts of the carriage and snow. He lifted the car curtain and saw a young man with black hair wearing a single coat walking on the road in the snow and wind more than 10 meters ahead. The carriage moves forward. The young man also heard the sound of the carriage behind him and turned to look over. Buwei saw the face of the young man walking alone in the snow. The wind and snow blew on his skin, slightly turning red, but exuding a strong vitality like health. This young man is extremely handsome. Buwei looked at the young man's thin clothes and smiled, saying, "Wind, snow, and cold weather, little brother, come up here and I'll give you a ride." The young man looked at Buwei without refusing, but slowly smiled and said, "You're welcome then." De Jian Zhao, who watched the young man get on the car, frowning slightly. Just as he was about to speak, he was stopped by Buwei's gaze. The young man didn't seem to see the eye contact between the two. "It's getting cold, hurry up and grill the fire." Buwei asked the young man to sit across from him and then smiled and asked, "I'm Buwei. I don't know what you call me, little brother. It's snowy and windy, and I'm walking alone. Where are you going?" "My surname is Zhang and my name is Tai." After Zhang Tai's lifelong cultivation was buried in the primordial spirit, he felt like a genuine mortal, reaching out to roast the fire. He smiled and answered, "Without a goal, the world is home, where you go is where you go." Zhang surname. This is one of the 8 ancient surnames. Tai, the name is even more precious. My little brother comes from a valuable family background. Buwei praised. "I am a businessman from Puyang and I am going to sell some goods in Handan, Zhao province. Since you have boarded the car, I can at least take you to Handan." Jiang Tai smiled and thank you very much. Buwei said, "People in the world, as long as they go out, it is not easy. Meeting on the left is fate, and being able to travel the same way is also fate." When he speaks. The swordsman outside, Zhao, who was driving the car, kept glancing at Jiang Tai with oblique eyes. Jiang Tai sensed the cautious scrutiny from the other party and did not intend to look back. However, he had already fully understood the state of the driver in his heart. There is an air flow in his body and a sword intent in his heart. He is also a decent expert among mortals. It seems that there may not be a cultivator like me in this world, but there is also a unique set of methods. He felt that LV Buwei, who was sitting across from him, was much worse off in health. As the capital of the state of Zhao, Handan City is bustling with activity, especially on New Year's Eve. People often come and go at the city gate, swallowing and flowing back and forth through that doorway. We have arrived in Handan. Hu Jianshi, who was driving the carriage, stopped 50 zhang away from the city gate cave. Jiang Tai nodded and thanked LV Buwei. Thank you for giving me a ride. Jiang got off here. LV Buwei invited, if brother Jiang hasn't settled down yet, why don't you go with LV to stay in the courtyard of Handan City for a period of time? Jiang Tai smiled and said, is this too much trouble for you? Lu Buwei waved his hand and smiled, saying, I greatly admire the conversation with brother Jiang all the way. I don't think we had a pleasant enough conversation, how could it be troublesome? If brother Jiang doesn't give up, Buwei still has a restaurant in Handan City with a courtyard behind it. So, how about giving the restaurant and courtyard to brother Jiang together for you to temporarily settle down? The swordsman driving the carriage once again took a deep look at LV Buwei and Jiang Tai upon hearing this. For LV Buwei's dedication and gift. Jiang Tai smiled in his heart. If it were in the past of the cultivation world, the person who posted these benefits without reason would be extremely wary. But now, he wants to understand the way of heaven and pursue the goal of being immortal and letting nature take its course, to make up for the life of a mortal. Even though he knew that LV Buwei in front of him wouldn't treat him so well for no reason, he didn't mind. Just like the other party inviting them to get on the carriage. Jiang Tai arched his hand and said, Brother Wei's generosity is greatly appreciated by Jiang. Since that's the case, let's take it. Lu Buwei laughed and said, ha ha ha, today I made friends with brother Jiang. It's time to celebrate. Let's go to the tavern and have a few drinks. The carriage drove into Handan City and soon arrived at the restaurant under the name of LV Buwei in Handan City. Although it is located in a remote corner of Handan City and there are not many customers in the tavern, it is relatively clean. The people at the tavern may have been notified long ago that the big boss LV Buwei is coming to Handan today, so he went out directly to welcome him. LV Buwei took Jiang Tai forward and said, starting from today, this tavern and the courtyard behind it will be under my friend's name. Hurry up, have someone bring food and wine, I want to drink with my friend. During the banquet, after 3 rounds of drinking, LV Buwei laughed and said, I really had a great day today. The courtyard behind me has already been cleaned up. If you drink too much, my friend, go rest first. If Buwei comes to Handan City and has business to talk about, I'll say goodbye first. After 2 days, I'll chat with my friend and have a good drink. Jiang Tai blinked slightly. Looking at the back of LV Buwei's departure, he drank alone, lost in thought, and couldn't help but smile. If the other party has no plans for themselves, relying solely on their attitude of throwing money and making friends can be considered a fun person. After LV Buwei left the tavern with his swordsman, Jiao Hui RD spoke up, how could you be so kind to someone you've only known for less than half a day on the way? Not to mention giving them a courtyard, you can even give them the income from a tavern. Behind his hands, LV Buwei's broad body seemed like a mountain. Upon hearing this, he glanced at his wine beard and smiled. Brother who also knows that I am a businessman, and the most impressive thing about a businessman is his judgment. Didn't brother who see that brother Jiang is not a layman? Jomo pondered and said, why aren't you just a layman? If it were a blizzard, he would be dressed in a single garment with nothing to keep warm, yet he would be safe and sound, which is extraordinary. Not to mention that his surname is Jiang, and his name is as noble as Tai. Especially on the way from Handan, I talked to him. Lu Buwei sighed and said, I personally thought that even if I wasn't a scholar of 100 schools and a master of various schools, I would still be someone who travels far and wide, and has seen a lot. However, this Jiang brother, no matter how much I try to test him, can speak without hesitation. He even feels that what I ask is not as good as what he experienced, as if only a tip of the iceberg is missing. How can someone like this not be worth spending $1,000 to make friends with? Jiu asked, You know my martial arts are also top-notch innate, but what I want to tell you is that I haven't noticed any fluctuations in the flow of true qi on this person. You know, even the great master of the Mahist school, the six-finger black hero, I can sense his aura. Unless he has even more advanced martial arts than the six-finger black hero, that's almost impossible. Secondly, how do you know that his noble name is not fabricated casually? What if it's fabricated? It doesn't matter if it's fake. LV Buwei walked ahead with his hands on his back and said leisurely. Buwei spent his entire life in business, knowing only one principle. 10,000 people wield bows, shoot one move together, and all moves hit. Spread a wide net, gather more fish, and choose the best. He is like the fisherman by the Wei River, as long as he casts a wide net underwater day and night, one day he will be able to catch what he wants like Jiang Taigong. But I don't know. Jiang Tai, who was drinking in a tavern, although he had fallen asleep with his cultivation, he still had clear ears and eyes. LV Buwei didn't go too far. Although ordinary people or martial arts masters couldn't hear him, he heard it and smiled. I used to be a huge businessman. Small businesses seek profit, large businesses seek fame, and large businesses seek their country. That's it. Jiang Tai settled down in the courtyard gifted to him by LV Buwei. Whenever he had nothing to do, he went to the front yard tavern to drink. His main goal was to be casual and not pursue anything, allowing life to flow with the flow, and then experiencing what he wanted to understand from it. Half a year has passed like this. LV Buwei found that his investment seemed to have failed. For half a year, Jiang Tai, who had given him a house or a store as a gift, did not receive much return for himself. But he was not disappointed at all. Because it's just today. In the 20th year of King Xiaocheng of Zhao. Entering summer. After Jiang Tai, he also caught a carp in the city of Handan. Haha, brother Jiang, come on, let me introduce you to this young master. Lu Buwei took a person's hand and came to the tavern, pointing to the person and laughing at Jiang Tai. This young master, named Yiren, is the biological grandson of the present-day King Zhaoxiang of the state of Qin. His father is the son of King Zhaoxiang and Guojun. We became acquainted at first sight. Jiang Tai looked over. I saw Yiren's face, yellow wax-colored, somewhat sickly, with a hint of decadence. Jiang Tai, now the owner of a tavern, approached with a smile and said, that should be a big drink. During the banquet, the three of them drank heavily again. Lu Buwei took Yiren's hand and said, Yiren, as a member of the Qin royal family, has not yet started a family. There is a beautiful concubine in the Buwei family who can be sent to serve. Yiren's eyes were bleary as he drank, and he said, Yiren is now just a recluse. Although he is a descendant of the royal family, he is a worthless proton. However, Brother Wei looks up to me so much, which really makes me feel ashamed. LV Buwei said, Buwei is a businessman, nothing else, but one thing is his ability, which is his vision. Although he is a proton now, he is like a strange commodity that can be hoarded for the future. Jiang Tai slowly drank alcohol on the side, muttering to himself. Strange goods can be found. He seemed to have dreamed of these 4 words in that dream a long time ago. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Gai Nia and Jing Ku. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Gai Nia and Jing Ku. Hoarding and hoarding are rare, and rare goods are readily available. It has to be said that LV Buwei is a born businessman. He was able to comprehend such a business philosophy, which destined this person to be extraordinary in the future. However, Jiang Tai vaguely felt that the 4 words, rare goods can be found, seemed to have been heard somewhere before. He vaguely recalled the great dream many years ago, when he was young and introduced to the path of cultivation. In my dream, there are many buildings and many steel-armored vehicles moving forward rapidly on the road. People come and go. In my dream, there was also a school with the sound of many students reading, and the words in my dream were square characters that I had never seen before. When Jiang Tai was a child, he thought that the world he saw in his dream might be the fairyland. But when he achieved success in his cultivation and became the renowned Jiang Lao Mo in the cultivation world, he felt that that world was actually just an ordinary one. Now think about it. He seemed to have heard the illusion of strange goods can be found in that dream. Unfortunately, dreams are dreams. Everyone can only remember a rough idea in their dreams, not very specific things. The events in the dream can correspond perfectly with LV Buwei and Yiren in the tavern. But I don't know if it's a coincidence or if most of the principles in the world are similar, and the same goes for merchants and merchants. After a drink, LV Buwei and Yiren bid farewell to Jiang Tai. Brother Jiang, not far from your tavern, Wei has found a new mansion for brother stranger. From now on, I can't say we will come to your place often to meet. Jiang Tai arched his hand and said, this place was originally not gifted by brother Wei. I'm just temporarily staying here. It's not a problem when you come. Lu Buwei waved his hand and laughed heartily. Brother Jiang, Wei has already said that if you live here, then you will be the master of this place and have nothing to do with me. So, next time we come, you must prepare more good wine to fulfill the landlord's friendship. After speaking, they left hand in hand with Yiren. Jiang Tai watched as LV Buwei left. With a gentle smile in his heart, he said, this person is not bad for me. Or in other words, it's not that it's not bad for him, but that he won't be stingy with people who LV Buwei thinks are valuable to him. This is the investment of a businessman. Looking back. Take another look at the restaurant that already belongs to you. Since I have decided to transform into a mortal and comprehend life and the way of heaven. So, why not start with a restaurant owner? Jiang Tai looked at the middle-aged man on the counter and said gently. Manager Guy, we need to brew some new wine now. Manager Guy was originally the old man of this tavern, responsible for managing this tavern for LV Buwei, but now the owner has become Jiang Tai. He walked over with a towel draped over his shoulder and said with a smile. Boss, although our liquor store is not very large, there are quite a few types of alcohol. What new wine do you want to brew? Jiang Tai is not good at wine, but he has tasted many good wines during his thousands of years of cultivation, but most of them are wines that can only be brewed in the cultivation world. After thinking about it, in fact, in his young dream, there was a type of wine that left a deep impression on him. The raw material for brewing was glutinous sorghum. But the brewing techniques in the dream are different, as if using a craft called distillation. That childhood dream, many things were dreamy and elusive, and there were not many specific things that Jiang Tai could remember. Only that kind of wine, he had tried brewing it himself, and after using distillation techniques, it was indeed more than 10 times more mellow and fragrant than ordinary brewing. Is there glutinous sorghum in the backyard? Take me to take a look. Jiang Tai spoke up, glutinous sorghum is also available in this world. Manager Guy smiled and said, there is indeed glutinous sorghum, but have you ever brewed wine? Food is still quite precious these days, and the new owner, through Mr. Buwei's gift, has taken control of this tavern. But it looks like he's just a noble teenager, how could he understand the craft of brewing? Jiang Tai smiled but remained silent, only carrying his hands behind his back and letting Manager Guy take him to the backyard. In front of the tavern is the main street in the capital city of Handan in the state of Zhao, and behind it is the place where Jiang Tai lives. A small courtyard with 4 rooms. Manager Guy and his son also live here. I haven't walked into the backyard yet. I heard the sound of two crispy boys chasing after each other. Guy Nye, don't run away, eat my sword. That is a child who is only 3 or 4 years old, with a dirty face, some apple red, and a big snot flowing. His eyes are extremely lively, and he is holding a very ugly small wooden stick that has been cut out in his hand. That's something barely called a wooden sword, chasing after another child. The child in front had cleaner clothes and seemed to be only 2 or 3 years old, but he was running around with the same enthusiasm and a disheveled face. As he turned around, he made a face at the child behind him and said, "Jinka, fools, don't run away. You're just bullying me. The sword is broken. Wait for my dad to make me a new small wooden sword, and I'll have a showdown with you." 2 children were chasing and running around in the yard. The child named Guy Nye ran and collided head-on with Jiang Tai's knee. He just reached his knees, like a little bean pudding. Oh, my goodness. After realizing that he had collided with someone, he quickly looked up and saw that the entire light above his head was blocked by 2 adults. The first thing that caught my eye was Jiang Tai's warm and mellow face. He hesitated for a moment and then said tightly, "Mr. Jiang." Upon seeing the adults coming, Xiao Jinka in the rear quickly stood still and nervously, hiding his small wooden sword behind him, waiting for the verdict in the distance. When the shopkeeper saw his son bump into someone, he quickly scolded, "Nye, don't act around, go and play on the side." Guy Nye lowered his head. Jiang Tai touched the back of Xiao Guy Nye's head and smiled gently, "It's okay, let's go play." As he spoke, he walked towards the granary with the shopkeeper Guy. But listening to the childish and cautious voice of Guy Nye from behind. "Dad! My little wooden sword is broken. Can you sharpen another one for me?" Manager Guy casually said, "Okay, I understand. You go play first. My boss and I have important matters to attend to. After receiving my father's consent." Xiao Guy Nye's face turned red with excitement, and he immediately turned around and ran to Jing Ku, who was slightly taller than him, boasting, "In a few days, I will have another small wooden sword." Xiao Jinka raised his head slightly and said, "He will still be my defeated subordinate." Xiao Guy Nye looked at the wooden sword in Xiao Jingku's hand, still envious, and said, "Can you lend me a play first?" "No way. Unless." Xiaojink whispered in Xiao Guy Nye's ear. "Go steal a little bit of your family's wine and let me taste it." "What exactly does the wine taste like?" "Ah. Then I won't borrow it." "Well, then I'll take you to secretly drink a little, only a little." "All right, Guy Nye, you truly deserve to be my good brother. Since you are so loyal, I can not only borrow your small wooden sword to play with later, but also take you to my good place. That is a wild flower field, where I usually practice swordsmanship." Listening to the innocent communication between 2 children, Jiang Tai couldn't help but think of her childhood, which was green and innocent, carefree and carefree. At that time, I didn't even think about my future life, only the happiness in front of me, childhood, which was once the happiest time of my life. Unfortunately, people can never have both childhood and the feelings of childhood at the same time. After arriving at the barn, Jiang Tai listened to the voices of the 2 children gradually fading away, and if he accidentally said, "Manager Guy, actually your child has a good foundation. I see you also have some martial arts skills, why don't you have the idea of teaching him martial arts?" Shopkeeper Guy was slightly surprised. Unexpectedly, this owner could see that he had martial arts skills. After a slight silence, he said, "The boss has a keen eye, and Guy has indeed practiced some martial arts, but it is just a small trick. He cannot even be considered a third-rate expert." "Not bad, Nie's foundation is indeed very good, but it is precisely because of his excellent foundation. And Guy only has this ability, so I cannot ruin his foundation from the beginning." That's why I thought of finding a famous teacher to teach him when there is hope in the future. Manager Guy, is your martial arts considered third-rate? Jiang Tai showed a slight interest. How many people in this world are more powerful than you? Although the strength of this world is not high, there are still some martial arts practitioners who he is interested in. What is the level of these practitioners? The wine shop granary is full of grains, although it cannot reach the level of small granaries being full and large granaries flowing, it can be considered prosperous in this city of Handan. These were originally owned by LV Buwei, but now they are all owned by Jiang Tai. Manager Guy said leisurely, since the boss asked, I will pick up some things that I know and tell you. Jiang Tai smiled with a slight interest and said, you can tell me. The shopkeeper Guy said slowly, there are hundreds of schools of thought in the world, as well as nobles and nobles. It goes without saying that these 7 countries have a long history of inheritance, and each family's surname can be traced back to the period when King Wu conquered Zhou and then theft the world. Below them are the hundreds of schools of thought, which were opened up for the sons. Although there are only a few schools that can serve as prominent scholars, they are only the major schools of thought. Confucianism, Mo, Taoism, agriculture, military, yin and yang, and famous schools. Jiang Tai whispered, is it the names of Confucianism, Mo, yin and yang, Taoism, agriculture, and soldiers? Manager Guy said, the world is dominated by 100 feudal lords, but cultivation is divided into 9 streams. The 9 streams are at the end, with the highest level being first class. These 9 stream levels are 9 stream health preservation, 8 stream strength training, 7 stream moves, 6 stream strength, 5 stream internal strength, 4 stream pulse cultivation, 3 stream extraordinary scriptures, 2nd stream supervisor, and 1st stream Zhou Tian. Jiang Tai looked at Manager Guy and said, are you Manager Guy? Manager Guy sighed and said, I am currently a 4th-rate meridian cultivator. At the level of nourishing meridians, if my meridians are fully developed, I can generate internal energy from them. The next step is to become a 3rd-rate master, using my internal energy to break through the 8 extraordinary meridians. Then, I can break through the Ren and do 2nd meridians, becoming a 2nd-rate master. Finally, my entire body's meridians are greatly perfected, and my internal energy is transformed into true Qi. That is the top first-class master in the world. Jiang Tai smiled and asked, as a top-notch expert, after experiencing true Qi, can you finish it all? Not all. Manager Guy's gaze changed, it was a longing and reverence, a world he had only heard of. It is said that above the first-class level, there is the cultivation of Qi, as well as innate, master, great master, and the rumored divine realm. Jiang Tai pondered for a while. Not to mention Jiuliu. After being top-notch, I have basically entered the stage of cultivating and cultivating Qi. Refining essence and transforming Qi. It seems that this world may not be as inferior as imagined. If there is a chance, I would like to meet this kind of person. In the mouth of the shopkeeper Guy, there were several such people hundreds of years ago, named Huangdi, Guangcheng, Jiang Zia, Duke of Zhou, and Kongqiu, all of whom are sacred in the human world. But I don't know if the cultivation of martial arts in this world will enter the level of transforming gods after reaching the realm of gods and spirits. However, he is walking the path of transformation, everything follows fate. If there is fate, let's meet again. Now. He looked at the grain in the warehouse and brewed the wine in front of him first, experiencing the taste of ordinary life. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Children in Zhao Ji's belly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Children in Zhao Ji's belly. Manager Guy has already poured out a bucket of glutinous sorghum and asked, Master, how do you plan to brew new wine? Jiang Tai walked forward and picked up a small handful of glutinous sorghum, then smiled slightly and said, give it a try. Although he had never brewed wine before, since he knew in his heart where the key to that wine lay, it was not difficult to brew it. After all, brewing wine could not be more difficult than his past alchemy and refining tools. In the blink of an eye, a few months had passed. In a secluded and elegant room of Jiang Tai's tavern, LV Buwei and Yiren have come again. This has become a place where LV Buwei often meets Yiren. After Jiang Tai went out to welcome the two people, he arranged a private room for them and turned to the backyard to study his own wine. LV Buwei looked at Jiang Tai's departing figure and sighed in his heart. I thought Brother Jiang was a talented person, but to my surprise, he really started brewing wine here. Cover up the small disappointment in your heart. Fortunately, there is another exotic product that can be invested in. Lu Buwei turned to look at Yiren across from the banquet and said, Are you satisfied with that Zhao Ji, young master? Yiren raised his cup and slowly said, Zhao Ji is a beautiful woman. How dissatisfied are you? LV Buwei looked at Yiren for a moment, then put down the wine cup and said, Why is the young master still so sad? Yiren drank a cup of wine to the brim, but his face turned gloomy. He said, Although Brother Wei is kind to me, I am still a person who lives under the care of others every day. I am not valued by my father in Xianyang. It has been several years since I entered the state of Zhao, and I have also been treated coldly in the state of Zhao. As a 7-foot-old man, I have been living under people for a long time, just like me. How can I not let people down and feel lonely? After speaking, he drank another glass and slammed down the glass, feeling disheartened. Upon seeing this, LV Buwei's eyes became even more profound and he said, You're right. How could a wealthy man stay depressed for a long time, especially after a nobleman like the young master, who only lacks one opportunity to soar into the sky? Yiren drank and shook his head, saying, I am both a proton and an abandoned child. How could I have the opportunity to fly a dragon in the sky? Lu Buwei's eyes flickered brightly and he said, Since the young master is the grandson of the king of Qin and the son of the prince of An, he is naturally the crown prince of Qin. If he can inherit the throne, he will naturally be a flying dragon in the sky. Yiren raised his glass with a slight tremble and looked at LV Buwei incredulously, Me? Me and others. How could it be my turn to ascend the throne? LV Buwei said solemnly, Young master, don't underestimate yourself. It all depends on human actions. Yiren looked at LV Buwei seriously again and said, Are you serious about what you said? But if I really have the assets of a crown prince, how could I be sent to make a proton? LV Buwei said seriously, Nowadays, among the 7 kingdoms in the world, royal marriages and the power of the maternal family often play a crucial role in the struggle for succession. Buwei heard that the young master's mother had already passed away, lacking the support of the maternal family, and because she was a commoner, she was not valued in the royal palace. Now, your father's main palace stepmother, Lady Huayang, is highly valued by Prince An. If the young master can recognize Lady Huayang as his mother and become her son again, then you will become the legitimate son of Prince An. If Prince An ascends to the throne of Qin in the future, you will naturally become the ruler of Qin. The heir to the crown prince. Yiren widened his eyes and said, Madam Huayang, this. After thinking for a moment, he hesitated and said. My father has many offspring, and Lady Huayang is a legitimate wife. How could she recognize me as a proton far away in the state of Zhao? It all depends on human factors. LV Buwei said in a loud voice. If the young master doesn't believe Wei, he is willing to personally go to the state of Qin to persuade Lady Huayang to accept you as his son. Yiren looked at the strong confidence emanating from LV Buwei's body, and couldn't help but be infected. He was also fantasizing in his heart that if he could really become the son of Lady Huayang, he would truly be the legitimate son of the royal family, possibly inheriting. He trembled in his heart and then his spirit shook. He quickly stood up and bowed to LV Buwei. If it weren't for Brother Wei's help, if I were to become king in the future, I would surely rule the state of Qin with you and be revered as a prime minister. Lu Buwei's heart became hot, and his ambition in his eyes was slightly revealed. This is exactly what he has been pursuing for half his life. De Fu. De Gui. The position of Xiangyi country. The two of them discussed and began preparing to go to the state of Qin. At the same time. In the backyard below the tavern. This wine. The shopkeeper tasted a sip of the wine brewed by Jiang Tai, and immediately felt a strong and fragrant aroma of the wine enter his throat. Then, his whole body heated up, his face turned dark red, and his eyes shone more than usual. He exclaimed in shock. Is it the heavenly nectar? Jiang Tai also took a sip. Although he had never tasted the wine from his dream, just by taking this sip, he knew that the new wine he had brewed was undoubtedly the best in this world and era. Even if you don't know the specific brewing steps and methods of the wine in your dream, after all, he is a half-step immortal. It's not too difficult to deduce a formula for the wine, add some of his own insights, and brew a wine that can be praised by ordinary people. After tasting a sip, the shopkeeper only felt a lingering fragrance in his mouth and scooped another small cup. After drinking it all, he savored it for a while and only had 2 cups. Unexpectedly, the strength of the wine slightly increased. He immediately looked at Jiang Tai and exclaimed excitedly, "Master, what is the name of this wine?" Jiang Tai looked up at the full moon in the sky and thought of the name of the wine he had seen in his dream. Take a sip, hold the cup in your hand, and smile. Seemingly plausible, it seems to be called Mao Tai. In the 20th year of King Xiaocheng of Zhao, autumn. On a full moon night. A liquor called Mao Tai appeared during the Warring States period. Then, within a short month, it became famous as the capital city of Zhao, Handan, with its elegant and delicate style, mellow body, long aftertaste, and lingering fragrance in an empty cup. Compared to the small matter of Mao Tai liquor. There was another major event during the same period. In the autumn of the 20th year of King Xiaocheng of Zhao, LV Buwei went from Handan to the state of Qin, carrying 500 gold coins to purchase rare treasures. Through his brother and sister, he convinced Lady Huayang to accept the foreign person as her adopted son. Madame Huayang once again convinced the ruler of Anghua to appoint a different person as her legitimate son, becoming the legitimate grandson of the contemporary king of Qin. After returning to Handan with this great news and telling it to Yiren. In the tavern, Yiren was excitedly ecstatic. After a few months of separation, LV Buwei returned to the tavern and finally tasted the wine brewed by Jiang Tai. With just one sip, his eyes lit up. Is this the new wine you brewed, brother Jiang? He thought that Jiang Tai's brewing was just a talk, but unexpectedly, he brewed such an exquisite wine. Jiang Tai and LV Buwei exchanged drinks and smiled, saying, "What does Brother Wei think of this wine?" "Okay." After admiring, LV Buwei pondered and said, "This wine has a rich aroma and is not suitable for ordinary people to drink. Brother Jiang needs to control it. Rare things are precious and cannot be sold at a low price. The price must be set at a level that only a nobleman can afford to drink in order to make money. After all, he is the most outstanding businessman of his time, and he can smell the huge business opportunities and positioning of this wine in an instant." After speaking, he looked at Jiang Tai and asked tentatively, "Brother Jiang, how much has this wine been brewed? Can you give me some? The quality of this wine is perfect for him to use for banquets and socializing with high-ranking officials." Jiang Tai chuckled and said, "I only brewed 100 jars at a time. If Brother LV wants it, let's take 20 jars. Thank you very much, Brother Jiang." LV Buwei stood up to thank him. With only these 20 jars of wine, he felt like he had regained his investment in Jiang Tai, and even had to earn more. With the quality of this Mao Tai wine, 20 jars would be enough to match his tavern in a yard. He couldn't help but praise his own judgment in his heart. Indeed, he was not mistaken. This Jiang brother proved his investment was not wrong in just 6 months through this Mao Tai liquor. But if Jiang Tai only knows how to make wine, then the value is only that. In front of him, Yiran was his truly priceless investment. Compared to him, Jiang Tai was as valuable as fireflies and bright moons. After asking Jiang Tai for a drink, LV Buwei coughed lightly and said, "Brother Jiang, I still have some things to talk about with the young master." Jiang Tai didn't mind either and smiled slightly. "Then Jiang, let's take a step first and talk about it." After watching Jiang Tai leave. After hearing that he had become the legitimate grandson of the Qin state, Yiran was overjoyed. The restless thought in his heart erupted like a volcano, and the voice he could only suppress as much as possible gritted his teeth and said to LV Buwei, "I want to go back to my home country." Now that he has become the legitimate son, it means there is also some possibility for the crown prince, but everything must be based on his situation in the state of Qin, otherwise the crown prince will not be his turn. LV Buwei didn't need to say much about this request, so he bowed slightly and said, "Buwei will do his best to escort the young master back to his home country." In fact, even if Jiang Tai left, he would have listened to all the plans and schemes of the two of them clearly, but he was not very interested. In this world, Wang Tu's dominance is nothing to him. "Come downstairs." Looking at the booming liquor business caused by Maotai liquor, Jiang Tai thought of LV Buwei's suggestion and perhaps should indeed follow his advice. Otherwise, only the remaining 80 jars of liquor will soon be sold out. Think about it. But I saw a very attractive woman sitting in the tavern, dressed in luxurious attire, with a pure white face and hazy eyes, all giving people a sweet and greasy feeling. However, Jiang Tai was no longer someone who cared about appearance. He looked at the woman's belly and only knew this woman with a fragrant and greasy temperament all over her body. If I remember correctly, this woman is the one LV Buwei gave to Yiran, surnamed Zhao. Now, a child who has been pregnant for 4 months. Although she is a concubine. But ultimately, they are also descendants of the Qin royal family. So this child will also have the surnaming in the future. I just don't know what to call Ing. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Lian Po's Aging. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Lian Po's Aging. My concubine Zhao Ji has met Mr. Jiang. In the tavern, a delicate woman with a sweet, fragrant, and soft temperament stood up with a slightly bulging belly and bowed to Jiang Tai. Jiang Tai knew that the other party was waiting for her husband in a tavern and said elegantly, "Madam, thank you very much. Since you are waiting for a stranger brother, why don't you go up and wait?" Jiang's tavern is crowded and noisy, and his pregnancy is not very good. Upon hearing this, Zhao Ji glanced at the second floor with a slight hint of tranquility and said, "It's not convenient for me, as a woman, to know what the young master is discussing." Jiang Tai smiled and said, "Madam, you can go to another vacant room on the second floor to wait. After all, the first floor is not very convenient. I will have someone take Madam up." Zhao Ji's heart moved and she thanked him, "Thank you very much, Mr. Jiang." The waiter from the poor tavern escorted the person to the second floor. Zhao Ji reached the second floor, reached out to support her waist, stood in place, and listened to the faint voices of Yiran and LV Buwei in the elegant room, her eyes filled with sadness and resentment. The two men in the room were both her men. Nowadays, no one pays attention to her anymore. Even though she is already pregnant for a stranger, the other person still doesn't return home every day, and even spends most of the night outside. When asked, she says it's a matter of family and country, so don't interrupt. But after all, she couldn't bear the loneliness of an empty room, so she had to go out and find it herself. Waiting outside the door for half a day, the two people inside didn't finish talking. She had to enter another room to wait. Until evening, Jiang Tai ordered someone to bring food to both houses. Zhao Ji had not yet finished discussing with LV Buwei and Yiran, and her heart was filled with resentment and emptiness. These two stinky men make a young and beautiful woman like me stay alone in an empty room at home. They are really ruthless. Can they still be considered men? I can't help but feel sad in my heart. Her life is really hard. When serving as a concubine for LV Buwei, she had dozens of women who wouldn't be her turn in a few months. In a blink of an eye, she gave herself away and didn't have a few happy days. Now that she's with Yiren, it's getting worse day by day. Since getting pregnant, she has been abstinence and widowhood. An old man, a stinky man even less gentle and considerate than Mr. Jiang from this inn. He is also young and handsome lonely Zhao Ji, with a sense of melancholy filling the room. At the counter downstairs. Although Jiang Tai did not specifically pay attention to Zhu Ji on the second floor, he only saw the woman's face and had a clear idea of what kind of person she was. The woman of Yiren, with her eyebrows full of love and a mole of adulterous students, is not a good family. She is the wife of the palace master in her destiny who indulges in debauchery. Jiang Tai was thinking wholeheartedly whether to remind Yiren. I immediately thought about it. He only has some affection for LV Buwei, while Yuingyi has not yet reached that level. Why bother? So he turned to call over the shopkeeper guy and talked to him about LV Buwei's advice on selling Maotai liquor. Manager guy said, I was about to tell you about this. We used 10 stones of grain, months of hard work, and your precious recipe to brew this immortal like good wine. There isn't much in total, and the price shouldn't be set too low. The LV family is right. I think we should distinguish this Maotai wine from other types of wine. This wine is really unaffordable for farmers. Jiang Tai smiled and said, after all, I'm not quite sure about the profit account of the tavern. So, let the shopkeeper make a price proposal. At night, with dim lights, many tables were crowded in the tavern. The drunkards in Handan City were all shouting. Quick, let's also taste your immortal wine. They all say it's divine wine, give me a glass quickly. The staff at the tavern were sweating profusely and trying their best to promote other good wines in the store to a group of drunkards. Take a look, there are other good wines in our tavern, such as this top-quality old yellow wine, all of which are aged wines. But the drunkards in Handan City refused to accept it. In no time, manager guy had already made up his mind and walked to the entrance of the tavern to rescue the assistant. Then, he clasped his fists and said, Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry, but there isn't much of our top-quality immortal wine at home. The price has just been set, and we just discussed with our owner. We sell a jar of 10 pounds a day, and as for the price, it's 1 gold and 1 pound. 1 gold and 1 Jing. The drunkards in Handan heard this price and immediately fried the pot. I'm crazy about money. However, the shopkeeper guy is someone who has worked with LV Buwei before. He knows that merchants focus on the principle of rarity is precious. The Maotai liquor brewed by the new owner's family is only available in their distilleries in the world today. Such scarcity is still at the level of immortal wine, and only a pound of gold can match this quality. A group of drunkards started scolding and yelling at the tavern for bullying customers, never coming again. Manager guy also had sweat oozing from his head. Turning his head, he saw that Jiang Tai, the owner, had a calm and even interesting expression on his face. The so-called various states of the mortal world and the forms of all living beings are just like this, and they are also things that one needs to integrate into and comprehend. Fortunately, Handan City is still the capital of Zhao State, so there is no shortage of wealthy and powerful people. Soon, a wealthy businessman bought a pound of wine for 1 or 2 gold coins. When wine was served on the table of the wealthy businessman, he gently lifted the lid and suddenly a strong aroma filled the entire first floor of the restaurant, creating a fragrant atmosphere. Gudong just by smelling the aroma, the drunkards outside the tavern and the guests inside did not feel any rolling in their throats, and their nostrils widened, all looking incredulously at the pot of wine opened by the merchant. The merchant also looked surprised, but at the same time, feeling the gaze of others, although his face remained unchanged, his heart was filled with great satisfaction. This city of Handan is a place of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. He is just a businessman who can get so much attention with just one gold, which can be considered a profit. But as he thought about it, after taking a sip of the wine, his thoughts suddenly changed. The wine entered his throat and intestines, and that special taste suddenly felt like a fire rushing into his stomach. Then, the fragrance of his lips and teeth echoed, and his whole brain buzzed. Good wine. He suddenly opened his eyes, shouted loudly, and then carefully poured a glass for his friend across from him. Friend, try it. This has aroused a strong curiosity among all the onlookers, itching in their hearts but fearing the terrifying price and not daring to try. What a strong aroma of wine. At this moment, a carriage was passing by on the street, and inside the carriage sat an old man who smelled the fragrance wafting out of the tavern. A strange brilliance immediately appeared in his eyes, causing the carriage to stop. When the old man's car parked outside the tavern, it naturally attracted the attention of many people. Someone immediately exclaimed in a low voice. Isn't this General Lian Po's car? Many people immediately looked up from the tavern, saw the frame, and whispered. I heard that the king had Major General Zhao replace General Lianpa from the front line, but I didn't expect it to be true. General Lianpa returned to Handan from Chongping. It is said that it was all because the old general faced the Qin army and remained steadfast in defense. The king suspected that he had connections with the Qin army. Amidst the chatter of people in the tavern, Jiang Tai saw an old man walking down from the carriage. His body was broad, like a thick mountain, majestic and steady, with grey beard and hair, and roots like a sword. He looked about 70 years old, but it gave people a feeling of towering and standing on the ground, as if his body contained terrifying power to the extreme. Getting off the carriage, there seemed to be terrifying blood spreading out of the air. Jiang Tai stood by the counter, propping his face with his hands and showing a slight interest, saying, "This old general looks very skilled in martial arts." Manager Guy whispered, "This is General Lianpa, from one of the 100 military families. He is now a famous military master in the world. Although he is over 70 years old and has the power of breaking the sky and earth, there are not many people in the world who can resist him. He is still the strongest of the Zhao kingdom today. Grandmaster, one person alone, can enter and exit among thousands of armies, take the rank of general." But shopkeeper Guy clearly overlooked another point. Grandmaster, who is close to being non-human, even if he is old, he is still deaf and discerning. Lian Po was aware of it, and the tiger's eyes fell on Jiang Tai and the shopkeeper Guy on the counter. The shopkeeper Guy was caught by this glance and felt as if there was infinite pressure added to him, as if he was like a lamb being watched by a mighty old lion. "Is the aroma of wine in the air made by your family?" Lian Po spoke, although his voice was not loud, it was like a heavy hammer hitting the ground, with thick and heavy words. Manager Guy is a bit nervous. After all, he is facing several great masters in the world, and he is also the commander-in-chief of Zhao Guoqian's army. Not only the majesty of that master, but also the bloody aura of thousands of people on the battlefield, which makes him a fourth-rate expert unable to breathe. Fortunately, at this time. Don't be nervous, we're just brewers. We're afraid of what he's doing. The owner gently patted his shoulder, causing him to relax inexplicably. As he spoke in response, he was only halfway there. "It's our family, General." Will the sound of the carriage rutting came, and another carriage drove from across the street, even more luxurious than Lian Po's. In front of the carriage, there was an official dressed in splendid attire and riding horses. Words could be heard from afar. "Oh, isn't this General Lianpa? Why, he has returned from Chongping." Guo Kai. Lianpa raised his white eyebrows lightly, his tiger eyes moved slightly, and his majestic demeanor spread out invisibly. At a glance, he recognized this villain who had a personal grudge against him. Guo Kaiki was riding on the horse and felt a slight anger on Lian Po's face. The fluctuation of the master's true qi made his face slightly white, but his lips remained firm. "General Lian, what are you doing?" You parked your car in the middle of the street in a good manner, so you're not going to let anyone else pass. You have made great contributions and occupied the road, so you can't let Guo pass. But don't you see that this is our young master Yan's car? He finished speaking. In the back of the car, a slight cough from a young man came out, as if reminding Lian Po. Gongzi Yan, also known as Zhao Yan, was the second son of the king of Zhao. But seeing that Lian Po's face remained unchanged, he just bowed slightly to the driver and said, "Please forgive me, young master. I just smelled some aroma of wine and wanted to stop and get some wine. I'll make way for you, young master." Speaking, he asked the coachman to drive the carriage to the left side of the road, leaving away. The aroma of wine. What a strong aroma. Unexpectedly, the young master Yan inside the carriage also moved his nose slightly and lifted the car curtain. At the same time, on the second floor of the tavern, LV Buwei happened to have finished discussing the matter of escaping back to the state of Qin with Yiren. He was about to go downstairs and saw the strongest man of Zhao at the entrance of the tavern, as well as Prince Yan of Zhao Jing collided with the gaze of the young master Yan who had just lifted the car curtain. Guo Kai discovered Yiren earlier and smiled, "Oh, what a coincidence today. This small tavern actually has a grandson from the state of Qin." He called Yiren Wang's son in his mouth, but his eyes were full of contempt and ridicule. Listen to the two characters, Qin state. Lian Po's eyes instinctively turned sideways, their gaze fixed on Yiren and LV Buwei. Not good. Yiren and LV Buwei had a ghost in their hearts and were nervous at the same time. Even Jiang Tai noticed a slight increase in the atmosphere, showing a curious expression. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Young People. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Young People. At night, the lights in the city of Handan flickered, and both inside and outside the taverns, the aroma of wine was strong, but the atmosphere became noticeably stagnant and tense. LV Buwei and Yiren, who were just discussing their escape from the state of Zhao from the second floor of the tavern, collided head-on with the two most influential and powerful individuals in the state of Zhao. Jiang Tai also looked at these people with a smile in his eyes. Lian Po was clearly replaced from the battlefield of Chongping, where he fought against the Qin army. At this moment, his gaze towards Yiren was completely cold. But obviously, Guo Kai and Gongzi Yan did not think so. Especially for Guo Kai, a sycophant minister, after seeing Yiren, he glanced at Lian Po again, as if he had thought of something and said. "I said, how could the old general stop at this tavern for no reason? It turns out that there is a king and grandson of the state of Qin waiting for you in the tavern. I've heard that the old general may have an affair with the state of Qin, which is why he refused to go to war on the battlefield of Chongping. Now it seems that it's not unfounded." Lian Po's face darkened, but he glanced at Guo Kai and said, "I don't know that the young master of Qin is here. He's just drinking." As he spoke, he glanced at Yiren, whose face had clearly become panicked, and felt a slight suspicion in his heart. However, he didn't think much about it. He just said to Jiang Tai and the shopkeeper guy at the counter, "Bring me a jar of your house full of fragrant wine." Manager guy hurriedly said, "General, wait a moment, I'll bring it right away." At this moment, the young master Yan on the frame was already seduced by the taste of the wine and said calmly, "Prepare 10 jars of wine for me too." In a tavern. Someone couldn't help but look up at manager guy, wanting to see his reaction. "It seems like it wasn't long before your store mentioned it that wine is only sold once a day. Now they want to see if the rules are still the same in front of noble figures such as nobles and veterans on the battlefield." The shopkeeper guy's face clearly added some beads of sweat. Indeed, he said he only sells 1 jar of wine a day, but now, should we offend the young prince of the royal family and the old general Lian Po? Guo Kai didn't change his mind when he saw the shopkeeper guy and sneered, "Are you a dog's ear? I didn't hear the young master say he wanted 10 jars of wine. Why don't you go quickly?" Manager guy sighed in his heart. Faced with the pressure of the nobles, they had to bow their heads, only to eat their words and lose face. Therefore, they felt embarrassed and dared not look at the customers in the shop. They lowered their heads and prepared to move the wine. Unexpectedly, a palm came back from the body. "Hold him down." It's Jiang Tai, with a gentle yet firm voice. "I'm sorry, our store has just established a rule that the wine you want is only sold at a rate of 10 pounds per day. We have just sold 1 pound, and now there are only 9 pounds left in this jar. Today, we only sell these. If there is too much, we won't sell them." Manager Guy looked incredulously at the owner beside him. Everyone inside the tavern looked incredulously at the young owner of the tavern dressed in white. He stood on the counter casually, placing his hand on the wrist of the shopkeeper who was preparing to fetch the wine. Even when he spoke back, he didn't even look at the two nobles outside the tavern, just smiled faintly and flipped through the ledger on the counter. Guokai suddenly became furious and shouted coldly, "Do you know what you're saying? The prince of the royal family wants to buy your wine, which is the blessing of your shabby shop. You don't want to be honored, how dare you not sell it?" Unexpectedly, the young owner in white only smiled and turned his head to look at Guokai, mainly at the young master Yen behind Guokai, saying, "The rule of our store is that we only sell 1 jar of 10 pounds of wine per day. If it's too much, we won't sell it. If it's sold out, we won't sell it." After finishing this sentence, he turned to the account book and said leisurely, "Since the rules have been established, let alone the young master outside the shop. Even if the 7 kingdoms ruler comes here and doesn't sell, he still won't sell. Arrogant. Rude. Bold." Guokai coldly said, "Someone, quickly smash this shop for me." Manager Guy's mind was buzzing, completely unaware that his own boss was so domineering, and the rules he had set casually were truly so immutable, even when facing the prince of the royal family. Even LV Buwei and Yunzhong, who were not far away, were shocked in their hearts. Lu Buwei called in his heart, "Ma. Brother Jiang, don't you know that we are engaged in business and sales? Even if we have money, how can we qualify to fight against high-ranking officials of the noble family, let alone the more noble royal family? He lived his whole life because he tasted the helplessness of being a businessman. No matter how rich or prosperous he was, in the eyes of the powerful aristocrats, he was nothing at all. That's why he became angry and wanted an opportunity to become a high-ranking official. Not to mention, he and Yunzhong are now preparing to discuss escaping from the state of Zhao. At this time, offending the Zhao royal family is not an act of taking the initiative to touch the edge of the sword." Brother Jiang resounding. The skilled warriors who followed young Master Yen were already preparing to rush into the tavern. Yunzhong's legs were trembling. Just as LV Buwei was about to come forward directly to beg for mercy and make Jiang Tai bow down. "Wait a minute." Lian carried his hands behind him, as if the mountain was thick and heavy. He stood in place, his old voice exploding like a heavy hammer, rolling with a deep anger. With the true aura of a great master or the surging river, the old general's clothes dance without wind. This is the capital city of Handan, where all the people are from the king, and the young master holds a noble status in the royal family. As the young master, Guokai, you dare to let the young master do such an inhumane thing. The noble young master of the royal family even smashed the people's taverns over a small matter. This news has spread. How will the world view our country of Zhao and the royal bloodline of Zhao? Is it true that our young master of Zhao is the generation of local ruffians and hooligans? Guokai was shocked and angry, and quickly looked at Gongzi Yen. The young master in the car was already trembling with skin and lips. Lian lowered his hand and said in a deep voice, "Young master, it is a great crime for Guokaisher next to you to incite young master to do unethical and inhumane acts. After you return, you will be severely punished." "Lian, you." Guokai gritted his teeth. "All right, that's it. Young Master Yen scolded Guo Kai coldly, then took a deep look at Lian Po and said, General, you really think about me? On Lian Po's aged face, calm as water, he said, my heart is only for the sake of Zhao. General Lian is indeed a loyal minister, with a heart. After finishing his sentence, Gongzi Yan hitchhiked onto the car curtain and said lightly. No more wine, let's go. Guo Kai wanted to say more, but he only had the courage to speak up to Lian Po when he was by the side of Gongzi Yan. He was very confident in his heart. If he was not by Gongzi Yan's side, the old Lian Po with great master strength would definitely dare to grab his neck with one hand, then throw himself out, and immediately let out a harsh word before following behind Gongzi Yan in a disheartened manner. After Gongzi Yan's carriage and horse left, LV Buwei and Ing Yiren both breathed a sigh of relief. Manager Guy quickly stepped forward and said, Thank you very much, General. If General wants any more wine, I will sell it today. Although it is less than 10 pounds per jar, there are 9 pounds, but I have given it all to General. Lian Po reached out and waved his hand, glanced more at the white-clothed shopkeeper, then looked at Ing Yiren and casually said, Since we only sell 10 pounds a day, if I buy all of them, what should the others do? Let's just bring 2 pounds and take them away. Okay. Manager Guy immediately went to fill 2 small jars of Maotai liquor. Lian Po, holding 2 jars of wine, only looked at Ing Yiren and said, Young master of Qin, why are you also in this tavern today? Ing Yiren was extremely nervous. Can he say he wants to discuss escaping from the state of Zhao? Jiang Tai on the counter spoke and smiled faintly, saying, Young Master Ing and Brother LV are my friends, but they just come to me often to gather. Upon hearing this, Lian Po didn't ask much and just chuckled lightly at Jiang Tai, saying, Young man, you're too sharp and not very good. Speaking, he picked up 2 jars of wine and drove away. Jiang Tai flipped through the account book, only listening to the 3 words, young man, when Lian Po was about to leave, feeling very disappointed. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Sword Saint Chao Qiudao. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Sword Saint Chao Qiudao. How the tense atmosphere in the tavern has been relieved. Ing Yiren saw Lian Po leave and gave Jiang Tai a grateful look, saying, Thank you, Brother Jiang, for helping him out. LV Buwei stepped forward and said, Brother Jiang, you really don't know how to advance or retreat today. After all, you are the royal family of Zhao, how can you easily offend them? Jiang Tai saw the expressions on both of them and just smiled lightly, saying, Don't worry, there won't be anything wrong. Let's go first. LV Buwei sighed as he saw that Jiang Tai didn't listen to his words. Brother Ing, let's go to my mansion and have a closer conversation. Jiang Tai saw 2 people leaving and reminded Ing Yiren that Zhao Ji was still waiting for him on the 2nd floor. Not long after, Zhao Ji walked downstairs with a more resentful expression on her face. After watching a few people leave the tavern. It's really dangerous, sighed Manager Guy. Master, you're really not afraid of the royal family at all. After all, you're a young master. Jiang Tai smiled and was about to say something. Xiaogai Nye came back from playing outside and grabbed the clothes of the shopkeeper guy as soon as he came in. He shook them and said, Dad, you promised to sharpen the wooden sword for me. It's been a long time. Manager Guy responded, Another day, another day. Dad has been busy these days, haven't you seen so many customers in the store? Speaking, he greeted Jiang Tai and went to greet the guests. Xiaogai Nye looked at the back of the shopkeeper guy who was going to greet people with grievances. Jiang Tai touched the back of his head and chuckled lightly, Don't be wronged, your father is really busy. Xiaogai Nye lowered his head and said, But he has promised me for a long time, every time. Jiang Tai said, Well, in a few days, if your father doesn't have time, Uncle Jiang will come and peel it for you, okay? Xiaogai Nye looked up and said, Really? Jiang Tai smiled and said, Really, really. Alright, go eat something quickly. After leaving the tavern, Lian Po's car drove straight to another large mansion in Handan City. After reporting, he got off the car with 2 pots of wine and walked straight in. After stepping into this courtyard, from a distance, one could see osmanthus wafting away under the moonlight, with an intoxicating fragrance. However, under the tree, there was an incredibly old man, a lifeless old man on the brink of death. Xianghua. Lian Po held his wine as the powerful old man approached, his voice tinged with sadness. Do you still remember that year when you came to me with thorns on your back? It was under this osmanthus tree that we reconciled and let the world know that our state of Zhao was peaceful. It was a beautiful conversation to apologize for the thorns. The elderly patient on the wheelchair under the tree, with sparse beard, was the wise old Prime Minister of Zhao, Lin Xiangru. He held Lian Po's hand and said, "The state of Qin is now very powerful. Not long ago, I heard that Lady Huayang of Qin actually recognized Yiran in Zhao as her son. This is a strange thing. You must pay close attention to the proton left by Qin in Handan. I have a premonition that he must not flee back to his country. I must be optimistic. Otherwise, if Qin not only wins in Chongping, but also flees back to his country, Zhao will really have nothing to balance Qin." Lian Po thought of Yiran and LV Buwei from today's tavern and was surprised. "Don't worry, I will definitely take good care of them." The old man said again, "If he really wants to escape, there will definitely be experts from the state of Qin to come and take care of him. General, you are already old, and I have prepared 2 people for you to use together." After speaking, he waved in the yard. A young man walked out of the shadows in the yard and arched his hand. "Soldier Li Mu, pay respects to General Lian." At the sight of Lian Po, he was immediately shocked by the momentum of this young man, such a young military master. Lin Xiangru said weakly. "There is another person, whose name, you must have heard of, is the strongest swordsmanship master in the world and is revered by people all over the world as the Sword Saint. Great Master. Sword Saint. Above the Great Master, there is a Great Master. Those who can become great masters in the world can speak their own words, and they are among the sons." Lian Po's gaze fluctuates. Sword Saint, Qiudao. Qiudao, residing in Jixia Academy, is the strongest swordsmanship master among the 7 kingdoms in the world today, and is known as the Sword Saint by the people of the world. Sword Saint. The weight of these 2 words is really too heavy. In today's world, everyone wears a sword, and Feng Hu evaluates the world's sword manual, accommodating ancient and modern famous swords. The ranking of the sword manual almost determines the strength standards of the world's swordsmen and swordsmen. For well-known swords such as Dragon Abyss, Teia, Shueji, Hanguang, Juk, Ganjiang, Moxie, etc., those who can obtain one are all among the masters. And Qiudao held the most powerful sword in his hand. Long Yuan. With this sword, he was almost invincible in the 7 kingdoms by the age of 25, and was hailed as the most powerful swordsman master in the world today. He had the aura of looking down on the world and was even revered as the sword saint of this era. Lian Po solemnly said, "The sword sage Qiudao is actually willing to help the state of Zhao." Lin Xiangru said dejectedly, "He was originally from the state of Qi, but I had a relationship with him in the early years. He promised to help me with something, and I have already sent a message that he will come soon." Lian Po looked at Lin Xiangru's expression and noticed that old Xianggua's gaze had become extremely cloudy and dim. He was startled by the vicissitudes of life in his heart. Lin Xiangru is doing his best to explain the future affairs to himself. He wants to take out the people and things that can be used, and make some final plans for the state of Zhao. Under the moonlight, these legendary generals of Zhao entrusted each other, holding not only the old years but also the worrying future of Zhao. Under the moonlight. At the residence of LV Buwei. Today is really a close call. If it weren't for Brother Zhang. Yiran was worried and said, if Zhao finds out, I would be prepared to escape Zhao. Buwei was also afraid of what happened today and said, young master, you must plan carefully to escape from the state of Zhao. Yiren looked worried and said, but it's not easy to talk about it. We've been talking about it in the tavern for a long time today. This is the capital city of Zhao, Handan. With so many experts and strict guards, it's one of the 7 most difficult places in the world to leave. I'm such a prominent proton, how can I go back? Buwei pondered and said, don't worry, young master. Not only will Wei do his best to help you leave the state of Zhao, but Mrs. Huayang also hopes that you can return to China as soon as possible after recognizing you as her son, so as to stabilize her descendants and future status. Therefore, when Wei left the state of Qin, Mrs. Huayang once said that she will also find someone to help us. Yiren asked, can Lady Huayang also help us? Who could be from the state of Qin? Buwei thought to himself, when I went to Lady Huayang's mansion that day, I saw a group of people dressed in ancient costumes. They seemed to be the most mysterious and domineering members of the Yin-Yang family among the various schools of thought. Perhaps. Yiren exclaimed with excitement, Yin-Yang family. Tai Chi Xian Yi, Yin and Yang Qi. This sect has been separated from Taoism 500 years ago and has developed its own unique style. In pursuit of the limits of heaven and humanity, it has created many powerful moves, and has produced many talented individuals for generations. Now, at the time of internal turmoil and separation between the 2 schools of Taoism, the Yin-Yang family has a subtle aura that surpasses the Taoist school, surpassing the blue and surpassing the blue. If someone from the Yin-Yang family came to pick them up, perhaps there is a chance that they will leave the state of Zhao. Buwei spoke calmly and said, today I happened to meet Zhao Yan and Lian Po. I have already started to stir up some suspicion, so let's not panic now. We can start planning after maybe there are people from the Yin-Yang family. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Yunzhong Jun Su Fu and Maiden Moon God. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Yunzhong Jun Su Fu and Maiden Moon God 7 or 8 days have passed in a blink of an eye. In the tavern. Dad, you agreed to sharpen the small wooden sword for me, said Xiao Gai Nye with his head lowered. Manager Gai said helplessly, Nye, you need to be more sensible. Look at how busy the tavern has been these past few days. Dad is really too busy to come over, so go play first. After speaking, he put on a walking towel and went to be busy. Xiao Gai Nye's eyes were dim. Why, I've been wronged. At this moment, a warm and mellow voice came, saying. Don't blame your father. He's just too busy, but do you remember what Uncle Jiang promised you? I'll help you make it, okay? Xiao Gai Nye turned around. Jiang Tai stood beside him, looking at him with a gentle smile. Xiao Gai Nye was slightly excited and said, can Uncle Jiang really help me sharpen the small wooden sword? Keep your word. Jiang Tai smiled and said. Let's go out and find a piece of wood now. Manager Gai had already listened to the words of the 2 people and said helplessly, Master, don't get too used to him, such a big child. Jiang Tai smiled at the shopkeeper Gai and said, as a father, don't easily agree to your child's request, but if you agree, it's still better to do it. Manager Gai shook his head and smiled, then please make him anyone you like. I'll be busy greeting the guests first. Since the emergence of Maotai liquor, the business in the tavern has been getting better day by day, and he really can't get busy anymore. Jiang Tai led Xiao Gai Nye's hand out, and the height of the 3-year-old child reached his thigh. Walking onto the street, Jiang Tai asked, Xiao Nye, what kind of sword do you want? Xiao Gai Nye said, just like Jing Cuz 1, Jing Cuz 1 was made by his father from a small tree outside the city, and I want that one too. Jiang Tai smiled faintly as he had seen the crooked wooden sword in Xiao Jinka's hand that day. Jiang Tai led Gai Nye towards the outside of the city. On the streets of Handan, not far from the crowd, 2 people slowly walked in, a man and a woman, walking in the crowd, looking no different from everyone else. But the powerful true qi on those two individuals, although extremely introverted, still made them stand out in Jiang Taiyi's eyes like the only two colorful human figures in ink painting. This man and woman look only around 20. The man's face was cold and deep, with long hands and feet, long sleeves, and a weapon slanted across his waist, resembling a sword rather than a sword. The girl's body contour is extremely beautiful, covered in a light blue short robe, decorated with crescent patterns on the back, with a long skirt trailing to the ground, and a veil covering her eyes in front of her forehead, as if intending to hide her eyes from the world. Two people, one male and one female, with top-notch young masters, walked towards Jiang Taiyi and Xiaogai from the crowd across the street. Then, 4 people brushed past each other. Xiaogai was obviously not aware of these 2 young master-level master men and women. Jiang Taiyi noticed them but didn't care at all, pulling Xiaogai forward. For him, unexpectedly encountering 2 young masters in this world was just a small encounter. After each person walks away, Jiang Taiyi did not pay attention to the young couple. Unexpectedly, after passing by Jiang Taiyi and Xiaogai, the young and beautiful girl with long gauze in her eyes had a slight change and turned to take a look at the abortion. Jiang Taiyi and Xiaogai have disappeared from the abortion. She heard the voice of the young man beside her, with a valley-like depth. What's wrong with the moon god? The girl with a white veil before her eyes, named Moon God, whispered to herself, that man in white was holding a child in his hand just now. Oh. The young man with long hands and feet said lightly, did you see anything? The moon god looked back at the young man beside him and said calmly, I see a sword. The young man said, oh. What kind of sword is it? The moon god said slowly, a sword that may become famous all over the world in a decade. The young man said, are you talking about that man in white? He's actually a swordsman. I don't see any strength in him, let alone martial arts practice. Qiudao said, it's not that man in white, he's just an ordinary person. What I'm talking about is the 3 or 4-year-old child he's holding in his hand. The young man looked deeply at the moon god and said, a 3-year-old child. Can your eyes really predict so long from now on? Perhaps, said the moon god lightly. The young man said, let's go, don't forget that our mission on this trip is to send the young master of Qin back to Xianying according to the will of the Eastern Emperor. It's not beneficial for us to do anything unrelated to this. Moon god said, got it, Lord of the Clouds. The young man said, I prefer people to call me by my name directly, Su Fu. The girl named Moon God remained expressionless and just followed him. As they walked, they arrived at a place. Are you 2 here to drink? Manager Guy came out of the tavern and saw the 2 people standing at the door, a young man and a young girl. Su Fu smiled lightly and said, come and have a drink, and wait for someone by the way. Manager Guy put on a smiling face and said, quickly, please come in. Whether you're drinking or waiting, please come in and talk. Su Fu and the girl were about to enter. Suddenly, behind them, dust was flying and horses were trampling on them. The remnants of a cavalry were filled with a bloody aura, rushing into the city of Handan, rushing through the streets, and bringing back a shocking news that would also shake the 6 kingdoms of the world. It was sure to leave a profound message in thousands of years of history. Our country suffered a great defeat in Chongping, and General Zhao raised his troops to surrender to Qin. Qin General Bai Qi. Bai Qi. Bai Qi. Ordered. 400,000 Zhao people were all killed in Chongping. The battle of Qin and Zhao has been deadlocked for 3 years, and both countries have a certain chance of victory. They mobilized the power of the whole country, sending almost 70% of their male population aged over 14 and under 50 to Chongping. That place has squeezed nearly 1 million soldiers from both countries. This is a standard national war. In the first 2.5 years, it was originally led by veteran General Lian, but there was never any result and he persisted, which raised doubts among the Zhao royal family and courtiers. Zhao Kuo, the youngest genius general of the military era, replaced veteran General Lian. The entire state of Zhao can be said to have placed all their hopes and expectations on Zhao Kuo. After all, he is the youngest and most outstanding general of Zhao. How could you have expected it? At the same time as the change of generals in the state of Zhao, the state of Qin secretly sent a man named Bai Qi to Chongping, serving as the superior general, and easily defeated the young emperor of Zhao. The whole Zhao country never expected that the young general who was given high hopes by them would be defeated so quickly. Not to mention being defeated, he directly surrendered with 400,000 Zhao soldiers. And they never expected that the man named Bai Qi would actually pit and kill his soldiers. When only a few hundred remaining remnants of the army, old and weak, were intentionally released back to the state of Zhao by Bai Qi, bringing back this bloody news that was destined to shake the world for eternity. An earthquake occurred in Handan City. Zhao Wangdan stood up from the throne in front of the officials and courtiers, and then fainted in place. At this moment, Jiang Tai was outside the city, helping Xiaogai Nye fold off a small peach branch and stroking away the branches and leaves. Suddenly, upon hearing the cries of Handan City, he looked towards Chongping with a slight surprise. He felt the surging blood and killing intent boiling there. Even with Jiang Tai's nature, he couldn't help but be surprised. After practicing for thousands of years, he had seen scenes like a hell of a Shura, but he was still moved by the qi machine in the Chongping direction he saw at this moment. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Killing the Gods and Leaving a Name in History. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Killing the Gods and Leaving a Name in History. On the yellow soil of over 400,000 people's corpses and bones, the world is filled with blood and loneliness, as if the entire Chongping has turned into a red, emitting a fishy smell, but with a towering murderous aura suppressing everything. Under the traction of the pneumatic engine, Jiang Tai's heart unexpectedly reflected a scene from tens of thousands of miles away. Amidst endless smoke, thousands of miles of bare earth, and thousands of miles of corpses, a man in white stands on Chongping, seemingly aware that he will forever leave his name in history. Jiang Tai whispered in his heart, with this murderous aura, if this person were in my own world, he might not be able to become a genuine god of killing. Unfortunately. Shake your head in your heart and stop looking. On the battlefield of Chongping. The man in white didn't know if it was a hindsight or a coincidence, but after Jiang Tai's gaze from afar, he looked in the direction of Handan. The eyes are deep and unable to see emotions clearly. General Shang, the wind is strong. Let's go back. After this battle, you will be famous for eternity. A black armored soldier from the state of Qin came to the man in white with a cloak. The man in white coughed a few times and said, "Is it famous for generations?" Killing 400,000 people in World War I, setting a record in ancient and modern times, is indeed a name that will be famous for generations. This name should not be a good one. He turned around and put on a black cloak. However, all the soldiers of the Qin army saw their invincible superior general, whose body seemed slightly hunched down for some reason. Later, people all over the world said that the reason why this legendary general, who was renowned throughout the 7 countries, had a hunchback was because he carried hundreds of thousands of homeless and lonely ghosts on his body, which led to his hunchback aging. After this war, kill the gods in vain, leave a mark in history. At this moment, in the capital city of Zhao, Handan, crying uncontrollably. When the hundreds of young Zhao soldiers transmitted this news back to various places in Handan, one of them passed by Jiang Tai's tavern. It was precisely when the shopkeeper guy went out to welcome the 2 guests at the door and sat down. The guests of the entire tavern were all in a state of darkness, falling into panic and crying uncontrollably. For a moment, the people in Handan City cried for their father for their son, brother for their younger brother, brother for their older brother, ancestor for their grandson, and wife for their husband. The streets are filled with the sound of pain, and the whole country has fallen into tears. But only the two people standing at the entrance of the tavern are exceptions. Even when the young soldier galloped past them and reported the news through vomiting blood, neither of them reacted. The two of them are Su Fu and the young girl Moon God. When all the guests in the tavern were crying, the two of them calmly entered the tavern, found an empty table, and sat down. One male and one female. Feeling the sorrow of the Zhao kingdom at this moment, I turned to the city of Handan outside the tavern. After the First World War in Chongping, there was no one in the 6 states of Shandong that could rival Qin anymore. Su Fu sat on a stool, as if he could see the whole world in his eyes. It's not in vain that Lord Donghuang specifically sent us to pick up the proton from Qin and return to China. In the future, Qin will unify the world, and perhaps he will be the only king in the whole world. The girl said calmly, "We'll wait for him here." Su Fu smiled and turned to look at the disheartened shopkeeper guy, who was shocked by the news. He said, "Shopkeeper, please serve us some wine and food." Manager guy instinctively looked at the two people and gave a shy smile, saying, "Oh." He had already realized that these two people were not from Zhao anymore. As true Zhao people, at this moment, 8 out of 10 were crying, and it was not uncommon for them to cry to death. How could they still have the heart to drink and eat? Another place. The old man who left behind the legend of returning to Zhao completely for future generations is about to die. Lin Xiangru. Zhao was once the wisest person in the country. Although he was not in good health, he should still be able to hold on for more than a year. However, after the news of the Battle of Chongping reached Handan, he could no longer hold on. The old man, with a withered expression and a lifeless expression on his face, grabbed the hand of the official and left his last words for Zhao with his last strength. After the defeat of Chongping, the protons of Qin must flee. Let General Lian quickly lead his troops to intercept them, and they must not flee back to Qin. At the same time, at Buwei's mansion, he ordered people to quickly pack their bags, gold and silver, prepare carriages, and call the most powerful person around him, which is Jiuhu. This innate swordsman from Luoyang hurriedly said to him, "Zhao Chongping was defeated and died 400,000 people, yet our situation is so tragic. Now that the whole country hates Qin, young Master Ying must leave early. I have made an agreement with him that if things don't go well, we will go to Zhang's tavern to have a meeting. At that time, there will be Yunzhong family experts from Qin to pick us up. It's all up to you and those Yunzhong family helpers to protect young Master Ying well." Jiuhu nodded calmly. After Buwei had simply tidied up, as soon as he drove out, he saw the madness of the state of Zhao. When the news of the Chongping battlefield came back, some of the Zhao people's emotions were certainly crying and collapsing, but they never forgot who brought them such deep blood feuds. It's from Qin. In less than a cup of tea time. On the street, all the Zhao people were frantically searching for the Qin people in Handan City, as well as those with Qin ancestry. They only have one idea of being flushed with blood. Revenge. If the Qin people kill the Zhao people, then the Zhao people will kill the Qin people. Many people are infected by this killing mentality. Quick, go to the tavern. Buwei felt the crazy emotions of the Zhao people in Handan City and urged, young Master Ying must not lose anything. At this moment, in the mansion of the Prince of Zhao, Guokai gritted his teeth and said to the Prince Yan. Deep blood feud between Qin and Zhao. How could we let anyone from the Qin people live in Handan, especially the proton of the Qin state? We killed him. We killed him. We fought tooth for tooth, we fought blood for blood. Gongzi Yen was still hesitating and said, but my elder brother was also a proton in the Qin dynasty. If we kill him. Qiudao said, if the eldest prince is unfortunately killed in the state of Qin, then you will naturally not be the second prince. Gongzi Yan's expression shook as he said, "Go and invite Marquis Julu to dispatch the Julu organization to handle this matter." The Giant Deer organization is a group of assassins under the command of the Giant Deer Marquis Zhao Mu. It includes hundreds of ninth-rate assassins, with the strongest being an assassin named White Feather, who is said to have the ability to control and command a bird clan. It is a person who can fly in the sky. Guo Kaijin said in a voice, "Don't worry, young master. Marquis Julu is loyal to you. If the Julu organization takes action, I will take down all the people related to Yiran, such as LV Buwei, and the tavern, especially the lowly people in that tavern. Don't want to live any longer. We will deal with them all at once." Zhao Yan also thought of Jiang Tai's expression that day, and his expression became unnaturally cold. "Before killing that lowly person, remember to help me ask him. Do you still sell me wine? I really want to see what expression that lowly person had at that time." End of this chapter.